RealAg Live. Welcome to RealAg Live, everybody. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. Really looking forward to today's discussion. If you have a question or comment for today's guest, all you have to do is enter it in the comment box, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch. We have a conversation today about agricultural marketing and how the restaurant industry, in this case specifically Burger King, how they perceive agriculture and use that perception to market to consumers, and how they maybe had a possible slight change of heart as well. Today's guest is Michelle Miller. She's better known on Twitter and social media as the Farm Babe. Let's bring her in here. Michelle, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks a lot for joining us here today. So, Michelle, kind of back up a little bit. How did the Farm Babe get started?
I started I guess it was a blog nearly 6 years ago, and it was a way to better bridge the gap between consumers and farmers. So the name Farm Babe was actually a spinoff of another blogger called The Food Babe, who was spreading a ton of misinformation about food and farming. And I had kind of chimed in on her Facebook page and was banned from her social media when asking about it. And she just really refused to engage with farmers. So there was this hashtag visit a farm food babe. There's a Facebook group called Banned by the Food Babe, which has 10,000 members. And so I was just like, wow, like I can't believe there's people out there that are silencing us and spreading all this misinformation. So I started the Farm Babe almost 6 years ago, and it's kind of been growing ever since.
Cool. And so are you still blogging all the time, or what are you mainly doing now?
Oh, yeah. I have my blog. I'm a columnist with agdaily.com. I'm a writer, social media influencer, public speaker, and a farmer when I can, when I have time.
Oh, cool stuff. So now it's got to be about, when did the first Burger King commercial come out? Was it early spring?
No, it was this summer. It was, I want to say it was like in July, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Because we had Dr. Frank Mittler on after that. So Burger King rolls out this commercial, really portraying agriculture in some ways, a kind of a strange light. What was your reaction when you saw the commercial?
I threw my phone across the room. It was bad. I couldn't stay and watch the whole thing, and I forced myself to watch it. And I was just like, this is awful. Like, it was wrong on so many fronts, like from a scientific front, from portraying farmers as, people destroying the planet. I mean, it was just awful.
Was there a particular thing that kind of set you off the most in that commercial?
Yeah, I think it was when the little kids were wearing gas masks.
Yeah.
Like, that was just bad. Like, really, you need a gas mask to breathe the air around cattle? Like, come on. I'm trying to blame all life's problems on cow farts. And it's like methane doesn't even really come from cow farts. Like 97% of methane comes from the other end, So it was ridiculous all across the board.
So commercial comes out, you reach out to Burger King, and you have an interaction with them. What was that? I guess how did you make that interaction happen? What'd you do?
I sent a tweet to their chief marketing officer, and I just explained, that I thought the ad was a huge slap in the face to farmers, and they got so much backlash on the ad that Burger King actually reached out to me. Their PR people did and said, would you have a call with Fernando, who's the chief marketing officer, and I had a call with him, and I just we had a really great chat, and I just explained why we found it so offensive. And I said, look, if you want to talk about sustainability and reducing methane and having farmers be good stewards of the land and the planet, I'll show you all about it. Come on out to the farm. And I'll be damned, they actually took me up on it.
Oh, okay. And so did they come out, or when they took you up on it, what did they do?
Yeah, so they came out at the time I was living on with my boyfriend at the time on his farm in Iowa, and they came out to the farm, and I took them to a large-scale dairy farm. I took them to a large-scale beef cattle feedlot. I wanted Burger King to see more so that large-scale agriculture, which is really what would be the suppliers for somebody like Burger King. So I showed them a methane digester, on the large-scale dairy where they're eliminating methane from going into the environment and turning that into renewable energy, renewable natural gas. Took them to these different feedlots, explained, how they're fed, how they're raised, what we do to protect the environment. Talked to them about what we were doing on our row crop field. So it was a combination of our farm as well as a couple others, really just to showcase that true story of agriculture.
And did you get the sense as you were touring them around that they felt they made a mistake?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. I know on the call, he kind of said, oh, in hindsight, he says, well, we didn't want to offend agriculture. I think sometimes we in agriculture are disconnected from the disconnect, if that makes sense. We sometimes don't always realize just how little people know. And so when he said that their intentions weren't to, he's like, why would I want to anger our beef cattle farmers? Like, our whole industry is based around beef. Like, we wouldn't mean to do that. And so I think they were trying to be kitschy and push the envelope and make fun of themselves and do all this stuff, which is kind of what he says they like to do. But he says, moving forward, he's like, we'd really love to run future ads past me and, talk to it, engage with farmers a little bit more, and go from there. So, yeah, I mean, they came out with a camera crew and did the whole thing, and the end result was a million times better. So
yeah,
I commend them.
So they put out a new commercial. We're going to actually show a portion of that commercial here in a little bit. But did you at all get to know how they came to the first commercial? Like, obviously they did a little bit of research post afterwards by visiting you in Iowa, but that research could have been done prior to that first commercial being released. So did you get a sense of where the gap was there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were really excited about their sustainability initiatives and, using lemongrass to feed cattle and all this research, that sounds promising, I guess, to an extent, but they kind of released it premature. I mean, I know even the scientists that they work with were annoyed because they're like, our research isn't even published yet. So I think for them, it was like, I think they didn't realize that so many people would fact check. And I don't think they realized that they would, piss us off as much as they did and stuff like that. And so, I mean, it's like their intentions are good, but they just didn't think it all the way through. Like, where do you plan on sourcing all this lemongrass to feed livestock, and how much is it going to cost? And there's so many questions, and it's just
trying to sell burgers.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's like this sustainability initiative, and it's like, well, why don't you talk about sustainability by highlighting the great work that farmers do rather than tearing them down and making us feel like a bunch of polluters, which isn't true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, question. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, livestock account for some 3 or 4% of GHG emissions, according to the EPA. So, this myth won't die, that livestock are destroying the planet, but that's definitely not the case when you look at the facts.
Yeah. Question here from Kara. What do you think stood out the most to Burger King when they came to the farm? What was the most surprising to them?
I think the methane digesters were pretty cool because they hadn't really even seen that. And, to just understand that farmers recycle everything. So when you have manure that's trapped in a digester, that in turn gets used to power homes and businesses, but then you still get byproducts with the manure, with bedding, with, you can do clean water systems. I mean, there's so many different things. And that was with a company I worked with called Brightmark, and the CEO, Bob Powell, was with us on that. And so that was really great, just so they could learn direct from the renewable natural gas, renewable energy aspect. I think was really cool, just to be like, hey, we all want to reduce methane, but there's a number of different ways we can do that. And so I think that was one.
Cool.
But,
yep. That makes sense.
They learned a lot. I even put them to work,
Did you? What did you have them do?
I made them feed the cattle.
So when they saw a cattle operation that was, because they didn't exactly portray cattle operation, they didn't portray them very well in the first commercial. When they actually saw a real life cattle operation, was there sort of like a bit of a kind of an aha?
Yeah, I think so. I just took them to a very large scale feedlot. I think they have 5,000 head, something like that. It was kind of in my neighborhood. Schwer's farm, Marty Schwer's, was about an hour and a half away from where I was living at the time. And they were just like, wow, I don't think they had any idea where their feed is mixed and how it's grown and raised, and thinking about the rate of gain and how, I think sometimes people have unnecessary negative connotations about feedlots, and they don't understand the climate control or misters or automatic manure systems or feeders, and just how much science and care goes into feeding cattle. So, I think there was definitely a lot of great information. Another thing I think was interesting is people ask me this question all the time. They say, well, do they source American beef or Canadian beef, like local? And, they don't really know, like they source it from Cargill. And so we kind of had this aha moment, I think, of like traceability, which I think is something that we can all get on board with, because a lot of times as cattle farmers, we don't know where our beef goes, and Burger King doesn't know where it comes from. So wouldn't it be cool if, you could say, yeah, like as a beef cattle producer, my beef goes into Burger King, and that's really awesome. And so I think that is something that could be an attainable goal, perhaps. Like you have contract growers for pork and poultry, but you don't really have that so much for beef. So it's like, where does it go?
We've seen McDonald's kind of go down that road a lot, like really taking a more positive marketing track, as you were kind of talking about. McDonald's has definitely approached the market differently and kind of doing some of those things. Yeah,
absolutely. And I hear, especially in Canada, that's even more so, where they really pride themselves on where your food comes from. Yeah. And I just doing more like that, just more traceability. I think more and more people want to know where their food comes from, and they want to feel that connection. So why not lift up your farmers, know where it comes from, rather than throwing the wool over people's eyes and trying to paint you as some planet-saving whatever, when it's like, there's a number of ways we can approach this where you don't have to rip on the people that produce your beef for you. You know what I mean? It was stupid.
Okay, let's. I'm going to play here a portion of the second commercial. Let's take a look. This is the one that they did. This is the second version, which I think they did a lot better job on. Here it is.
Focus a lot on the truth of agriculture, what we do to protect the environment and sustainability and all that thing, and how we all kind of have that same goal to reduce methane and protect the environment and like move forward with science and technology. And so just really want this to be an interactive.
Cool.
Yeah. Coming together and having conversations is important.
You can't dismiss somebody's question or concern. They're all valid. So if there's consumer sentiment, you can't just say, oh, you guys are wrong, and ignore it, because they shape the way farming is done today.
So what do you hope to kind of gain out of these couple of days?
You open the door for us to come here and learn more in terms of technology, sustainability, and we are all about learning and seeing what we can do better.
There are some people out there that are like, oh, I don't want to advocate for agriculture, I don't want to deal with that. But you need to, because if we don't talk about it, who will, We want people to know how much we care about the environment, and so many people in cities or whatever, they're just like, oh, farmer. Yeah. We just feel really underappreciated,
Okay, so we played about half the clip there, and it really seems that there was a real sense of genuineness coming from the executive of Burger King in terms of, okay, what exactly is going on here and what did we miss? Is that a fair take?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think that this is just the start. I think this is just the beginning. You build on relationships, you make sure that we're included in the discussion, and, you want to make sure that you're advocating for ag as a trusted voice. And so, we'll see what happens going forward. But I genuinely felt in hindsight, they realized that they kind of screwed it up and they wanted to make it up to us. And I commend them. I mean, they didn't have to come all the way out there. They, spent a lot of time and money and hired, camera crews and all this stuff to really do it right. And most other food corporations would just block us or ban us or delete it and, not care. So it, in my opinion, it was a very refreshing breath of fresh air,
Lindsay points out, watching on Facebook, it's a key point that farmers don't always know where their product goes to.
Right. Yeah, we want to feel that pride, It's like I was selling meat at the farmers markets, and I love it when people come back and they say, oh my God, my wife and I had your T-bones on our anniversary and it was the best steak I've ever had, and stuff like that. It makes you feel good as a producer and as a consumer.
Yeah. Question here from Devin watching on Facebook. Do you feel or know if other big brands and ad production groups are watching this Burger King fiasco as a train wreck to avoid? And do you feel like other brands will raise the bar and step up their game and maybe begin to steer consumers in the right direction to avoid what Burger King and A&W have done with their beef campaigns?
Yeah, I think so, and I hope so. And I think that's a great question and a great point that I'm hoping that we can continue to move that needle in that direction. Because funny enough, we have Culver's here. I know Culver's is kind of regional, but their marketing is all about thank you farmers. So ironically enough, just by chance, when all this Burger King crap was going down and they were just getting their asses handed to them on Twitter, meanwhile, Culver's had sent me a care package in the mail that was like, hey, we just donated millions of dollars to FFA and 4-H, and they're donating all this money to the future farmers with this hashtag Thank a Farmer campaign, and they sent me a handwritten letter and all this stuff just thanking me for my advocacy. And so, their kids' meal, if you look at their bag, it's got like fun facts about dairy, and it's got cows, like fun, cute little talking cows, for the kids. And so if you drive through Wisconsin, there's barns all over, thank you farmers, with Culver's where their headquarters is. It's just all about thanking the farmer. And I have done posts. I love Culver's. And they're not even like a sponsor of mine or anything like that. I'm just like, I love Culver's. Like, they're amazing. But I post these experiences I have with them, and they go pretty viral. I had one that had like 6,000 likes on Facebook and so it's like I'm talking to the chief marketing officer, Burger King, and you're seeing all these posts where I'm putting Burger King on blast, like right after it happened. I screenshot all this stuff. I wrote an article. I wrote like, these posts just talking about how awful this was. And then I said, but did you see the posts I did in there that were with Culver's? And did you see how popular those were? So think about how you can go viral with good news, because good news is something that a lot of food companies don't do. And so when you see it, it's like, wow, this is different. Like, heaven forbid we actually lift up our farmers and help people feel connected to their food rather than organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, unicorn blast, free range, whatever label they want to put on it to make people feel good. At the end of the day, I don't know if that's really selling as well as they think, when you could just make people feel connected to their locally produced American or Canadian raised food. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if you have if you believe in the power of word of mouth from a marketing standpoint, and you've got, if you connect your campaign to the good work that farmers are doing, and you get your suppliers, farmers, behind that, I just think there's nothing but positive things that are going to come from it, instead of it being some sort of, misinformed, antagonistic back and forth like, Burger King did in the first round, as well as, A&W's been criticized for some of the same things as Devin had alluded to. Question here from Brian watching on Facebook. When you look at version 2.0 of the commercial versus the original ad, did they actually think the original version was good?
You cut out for a second there. Did they think the original version was what?
When we look at the second version of the ad, did they actually think the original version was good?
I think at the time they thought it was cool. And I actually engaged with the gal that wrote the song, and I engaged with one of the producers. I mean, it took a whole team of people to put that together. And it's like everybody I talked to that was a part of that were like, wow, like I had no idea. They were really nice to me. They were proud of their work. And to be fair, if you want to communicate with people, you can't just be a jerk, right? And so I was like, hey, your commercial, the kid's really talented. Like, I got to give you that. I got to hand it to you. This is something really interesting and different and unique, and the kid's talented, and it was a good idea and concept, but what if we could have done it this way instead? And so they were kind of like, oh yeah, like, thanks for informing us. They really were nobody was rude, and that's what I think was so important. You see people that just want to fight and get angry, and it's like, that doesn't get you anywhere. So I think they were proud of it, but then in hindsight, when they saw the backlash, they were like, oh, we didn't know that would happen. So hopefully this is just the first step in moving forward to promoting agriculture more overall.
Okay, let's talk about being proactive. Kara's got a good comment question here. She's watching on Facebook. How can we educate before companies have to get in the situation of having to redo an ad? How do we become more proactive so that before that first commercial even gets launched, they're educated on the right stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just delivered a virtual keynote speech last night. I brought up this very topic of, remember how cool milk was back in the 90s? And I don't know how it was in Canada, but here in the U.S., we had every celebrity under the sun. I mean, you had every athlete, you had every supermodel, every pro athlete. Making milk was cool. You had Got Milk with the Milk Mustache campaign. And I remember being a kid in the 90s going, wow, like Cindy Crawford is telling me that she's that beautiful and tall and healthy because she drinks milk. Like, I want to drink milk. And there's a way to make ag cool, but we've got to be able to involve these, like, can we get a Kardashian on a farm already? You know what I mean? Like, I say it half joking, but it's true. You know what I mean? Like, celebrities have influence. So I would say doing more things like that. We have to wonder where the budget for agricultural marketing is going, and is there a way to better utilize that to kind of get back to where we used to be, and being more proactive. A lot of times people are influenced by Netflix documentaries. People go vegan because they watch What the Health or they watch Food Inc. My cousin, she became a vegetarian, and I watched Food Inc. back in the day before I started getting involved in agriculture and advocacy. I actually came from Chicago and Los Angeles before all this farm stuff happened in my life. But being a city girl, I used to be an anti-GMO activist, and I would only buy organic, and I was really worried about, hormones and antibiotics and factory farming and all this stuff. And people are influenced by that because they only hear one side of it. And so for us, we have to advocate and work together to strengthen the story of agriculture to definitely be more proactive, because they want to know. As soon as I tell my friends, I'm like, oh, Food Inc., that's not true at all. And then they're like, oh, really? And then you give them the real facts and you explain, well, who funded these so-called documentaries? Who's the money and the brains behind these ideas? And you realize that it's activist groups or food companies with an agenda that are trying to sell people in one way or the other, And so it's fine. It's like if a farmer wants to grow organic or non-GMO or whatever, grow into that niche market and become more profitable or whatever the reason is behind it, that's great. But we can't demonize or vilify or spread misinformation about people that choose to do it different, because at the end of the day, we have to celebrate farmers of all shapes and sizes.
A lot of the audience is saying, hey, no Kardashians, please, no Kardashians. I don't want a Kardashian on my farm. I'm like, guys, that would be interesting TV.
I know.
Have Kim and Chloe and what's the other one's name? Courtney? I don't know. There's feels like there's 12 of them. But
Rob.
have them out and they're doing farm labor. That'd be a great episode.
Fair.
What is everybody talking about?
Well, and it's funny because, Kardashians maybe is a bad example, but it is funny because they do really take on causes. And I saw an episode once where Kris Jenner had gotten a pet baby pig for Kylie, and Kylie came downstairs and she looks and she goes, oh my God, is that a chicken? No, that's a piglet. But it was so funny because I was like, and this is why we have to have agriculture education and advocacy so that people know what they're looking at. But it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So maybe not a Kardashian, but maybe somebody that's, I'd have to think about it. But you understand the gist of the statement.
Absolutely. Well, and I think with the lack of education in schools about agriculture, if somebody sees a commercial that's maybe not necessarily up to a standard of fact, they don't know any difference. Same as you mentioned some of the Netflix documentaries that are out there. Mm-hmm. They're kind of the same way, where somebody, they're in the documentary section. So when you hear the word documentary, you're thinking objective, right? And, searching for the truth. And man, a lot of times that is not the case.
Unfortunately, a lot of those movies are not accurate portrayals. And you're absolutely right. Education is so important. And, it's got to be more than just like, we all love agritourism, right? Like, it's fall, we're going to the orchards and we're having hot apple cider and we're picking pumpkins. And it's a beautiful time of year for agritourism. We all know and love that. But at the end of the day, it's like, but like, where does like our coffee come from? How do we eat bananas in January in Canada? You know what I mean? So there's all these things, like agriculture is so big and diverse, and just be able to understand, where our food comes from on a global scale, I think would be really great thing to focus on for sure.
Okay. We've got it figured out here in the chat. We've got it figured out. If we're looking for a celebrity ambassador for agriculture, there's only one choice. Brian brings it up. It is The Rock. We need to work on it.
I love him. He's actually my celebrity crush, so I can get behind that.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. For sure.
Lara says, let's get Gwyneth Paltrow and her Goop team on a farm and show them the truth. That would be...
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, that would be great, but I think she's too far gone.
There's no recovery there whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's no recovery.
Remember over 90% of people are in the movable middle, right? She's definitely that like 1% extreme where it's like, we can try, but probably not going to have a ton of traction with that one. That's a whole nother level of.
Well, and some people would say, well, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like that person, no one's listening to Gwyneth Paltrow or
Oh, man.
no one's listening to the Kardashians. They're celebrities. Nobody cares.
Oh, man.
You may be not listening, but there's lots of people listening.
Oh, yes. Like maybe we're not in rural America, but all you have to do, and that's like probably one of my favorite things to do is when you're back in a city. Like this summer, I went to Chicago and I was out on my friend's boat, and it's like I was surrounded by all these city girls, you know, and oh my God, they say, so what do you do for a living? You have a conversation. And everybody, I mean, when you get a chance to be in front of like a city non-farm audience, talk about what you do as an advocate for agriculture, it's just, I mean, their eyes just light up. It's like they have so many questions they want to know. And you automatically are a trusted voice, right? Because they're like a friend or friend of a friend. And so they're kind of like, really? Wait, what do you mean there's no such thing as added hormones in poultry? You're like, yeah, it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
They're like, what? Like, they're just mind blown, but they love it. They want to know, you know, their friends are going vegan because they think that these animals are raised in these horrific conditions or whatever. And it's like, no. So when you tell them it's okay and you can make them feel better about their choices, it's like, that's huge. We just have to be able to do that on a large scale. You know, we can reach like 5-10 people in a conversation in a room, but how do we amplify that across social media or Netflix? We have to kind of infiltrate it the way that the activists have been infiltrating the message, you know?
So is that one of the things that we need to have more of, is more, you know, more kind of shows that can be on Netflix, because that's such an important medium now for so many people, especially during COVID with, you know, that kind of stuff. You think that's important?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, when you watch any major TV show, you know, like I know that I'm talking to a lot of Canadians too, but you know, we've got like the Today Show or Good Morning America or Rachel Ray or, you know, all these major celebrities, and when they get a health or nutrition or food expert on their show, or maybe a chef, you know, oh, a celebrity chef is such a big deal, but then they go on and they don't have an agriculture background at all. Like, when was the last time we actually saw a farmer on a major network? I remember we had Chris Soules as The Bachelor a few years back, which was exciting. I was like, oh yeah, we got this commercial farmer. This is going to be great. And then he got into that car accident and screwed up his life. And I was like, well, there went that. But it was, it was nice. It was nice to kind of have that for a moment where, you know, you can say like, can we get more farmers involved in the discussion? And so it really is kind of a matter of blending this city and urban and rural divide, you know, in ways that can be big and important.
Angela has a comment here. Agriculture needs to be more proactive as well. The new Dairy Farmers of Canada commercial is great. We need to invest in our own advocacy. Do elected ag representative groups, like dairy producers, beef producers, oat development commissions, etc., in the States, do they invest in commercials of any type of advocacy to show it to the mainstream?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. I think they do a little bit. But yeah, I would definitely agree with her that we need to do more and bigger and better, and make sure that it gets into the eyes of the people that really need to see it. You know, sometimes agriculture is kind of good at preaching to the choir, you know? Yeah. So can we do it bigger and better, like Super Bowl? Like, you know, we had that commercial, So God Made a Farmer, years ago. And to this day, it's one of the most widely loved and most popular Super Bowl commercials of all time, you know? So stuff like that. Yeah, we definitely can do it. We just need to do a lot more of it.
Absolutely.
In a big way, you know, but the Super Bowl, I mean, that's a big budget, but that's kind of what it takes to make it, you know?
Millions of dollars.
Sometimes.
Hey, Michelle, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you joining us here today. Some great questions from the audience, and keep up the great work, okay?
Yeah, thanks. And to that note, too, we talk about these millions of dollars and these big campaigns, but I want to encourage people listening and watching, too, to know that sometimes all it takes is a tweet to influence somebody like Burger King, too. So my message with advocacy is always, hey, guys, make sure that we're all being a part of the discussion because, yeah, our voices matter and we can make a difference. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me on today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That great stuff there, everybody. Really, really important stuff. And Michelle brings up a very good point. You know, just one interaction, reaching out and saying, hey, we got to correct this stuff. There's something wrong here. and look at the impact that someone like herself had. That was Michelle Miller, better known on social media, places like Twitter, Instagram as the Farm Babe. Really appreciate her joining us here today. Okay, tomorrow on the show, we are going to talk to Gary Chambers. He's a farmer from Alberta, but he's also got this whole side gig where he is really doing some cool stuff in the area of fitness. He's my co-host on the Fit Farmer podcast. So he's going to join us tomorrow to talk about his farm and some of the things that he's doing in the fitness world. It's going to be a lot of fun. So bring any of your fitness questions. As well, on Friday, I believe our guest is going to be Horst Bonner, soybean specialist with Omafra. Today on RealAg Radio, we are going to have a RealAg Issues panel. I know it's midweek edition, but we're bringing out the Issues panel. Kelvin Hepner and Lindsay Smith will join me, and we're going to talk about how, is there any negative impacts of the fact that agriculture is only 2% of the population? What are some of the outcomes of that? So we're gonna have a lot of fun discussion talking about that today, and also your feedback on what keeps you up at night as a farmer or rancher. Thanks a lot for everybody for tuning in today on RealAg Live. I appreciate you getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.